So speakers, do I have permission from everybody to record this? All right, perfect. So right off the bat, we're gonna sort of break up the first Q&A portion into 4 topics. The first topic is high school, then we have college applications, college, and then sort of plans for after graduation. So starting off with sort of high school. So can you all sort of talk to me about what your high school experience is like, maybe what organizations or clubs you were part of? Yeah, so we can start off with whoever.
I can go ahead and start. So I kind of had an untraditional route inside of Saratoga High School. I didn't actually spend all 4 of my years there. I spent 2 of them inside of a program called Middle College, where basically you can go to a local community college and finish your high school education there. And so I was at West Valley College for 2 years of high school. And then when I was able to graduate, I then was able to transfer within a year. And then clearly I was in robotics, and robotics took over most of my life. So that's just about it.
I can go next. So I went to Saratoga High all 4 years. I joined MSET Robotics in freshman year as I just saw like one of those flyers and whoa, that looks interesting. And I just fell in love with it. But I also joined a variety of other like STEM clubs like rocketry and like other just like drone club. And yeah, it's just a bunch of STEM different like things I found in SHS, and it was just really cool, and it really helped me learn about like STEM in general.
Shoot, it looks like my answer is a direct copy of Brandon's, where it's I think large portion of my high school life was pretty much just robotics, and then part of it was also rocketry, and those 2 in particular sort of like helped me find that I really enjoyed studying STEM and wanted to like pursue it in the future.
I think like everyone else here, my main thing was robotics. Robotics was really good for me. It helped me kind of figure out like where I'm really interested in through FIRST, because obviously they do give opportunities beyond the robots. I realized what I'm really passionate about is the intersection of business and engineering. And so that's like really helped me like that's like brought a lot of clarity into like where I want to go into in the future as well.
Yeah, for sure. And so obviously you all talked about how robotics is a big part of your life and how that really helped you get interested in STEM. But was there any particular either moment or particular activity that helped you really gain an interest in specifically engineering?
I think for me, it was a large part of it was, I guess, the first few meetings ever in robotics where I got the chance to really use like or put things together with our bare hands and like design systems, have them do things. That just sort of appealed to me a lot.
Yeah, I think getting that opportunity to design things and build things hands-on was really nice. And also because like it's a challenge, you're solving problems, and engineering is that same mindset, except now you're applying it into the world and not just into a game. And I thought I really like that mindset and like that way of thinking.
For me, it was 2 things. It was I took the DE, the 3rd year of like the engineering series at Saratoga High School. And honestly, when I tell my friends that I was able to do that, they were shocked. Like, it's such an opportunity to just have engineering classes inside of Saratoga High, let alone one that has to do with circuits. And then from there, I was like, I think this is kind of what I want to do. But then on top of that, I would really recommend community college classes starting from your junior year, where you can start by, it's like this form that you have to fill out beforehand, but then you can take a community college class over the summer, and it's way easier than Saratoga High classes. Like, If you guys have taken any AP at Saratoga High School, you are set to get an A for some of these classes in community college. So with that, like I took a couple of CS classes at De Anza College where the course is 12 weeks if you're taking it through the year, 6 weeks if you're taking it during the summer. And it was a great way to dip my toes in without like fully falling into the pool.
I think what really made me love robotics and STEM in general were the classes that SHS provided. So I took 3 of the different ones: intro, digital electronics, and the final 4th year one. And what I learned in those, it really just allowed me to use that knowledge and put it in robotics. And like the countless hours I spent in the room, it's just, I learned so many different things, like random things, but it just helped me learn so much. And the classes on top of that, it really just like, it propelled my knowledge forward and made me want to learn even more than I already knew.
Yeah, so what do you, since all of you obviously talked about how MSET was like a really big part of your time and your life, and I think it's often joked about at Saratoga High that like if you're in robotics, that is your entire life. But you know, obviously we hope it's not. But what was it? Do you think? Because all right, let's quickly mute. So, what was it that you think really motivated you or inspired you to stay involved with robotics, even though it was taking up so much, or I guess you're sacrificing so much else to stay involved?
For me, it was just fun. Like, not only was I learning so much, I actually like, there's some things you know that are helpful, but you don't really like to do. Robotics was not that. Like, I loved it, but I also like, it was so much fun that, and it was super like, for me, it's competitive. So I like pushed myself to win. I pushed myself to learn different, like how to CAD, how to like use different machining tools. It really just like, it really gave me a drive to just keep going and not like just quit at a moment's notice.
You know, I think to add to that, MSET's really a program where the more you put in, the more you get out of it. And I honestly feel like that's kind of an exponential thing. But like, honestly, like the amount you learn is just incredible, both like on and off the robot. But then also you get to meet such amazing people on your team and like from other teams. And just overall, the whole experience is so incredible. And honestly, I don't think there's anything else like it in high school.
Yeah, adding on to that, there's also like so many different aspects to participating in MSET that like, even if you were sort of might have been tired with one part of it, like CADing too much or whatever, you could jump onto building something, or like something I really enjoyed was doing a lot of outreach.
Yeah, so do you have, I guess, any advice that you would give maybe a younger high school student or someone who is looking to join various different clubs, whether it be MSET or I know we've talked about like rocketry and all. Any advice for sort of choosing activities to get involved with and stay involved with?
Well, for freshmen specifically, that's the year where you'll have the most free time. So like if at all possible, like try to join like literally like everything and like choose like your favorite like 2 or 3 things to just stick with. In terms of pursuing like robotics, like give yourself the chance to like get involved, like, and if you feel like you don't know what you're doing, really like put yourself out there and get involved, because the more you do get involved, the more you'll like enjoy it and the more you'll get out of it.
I agree with Mitra. Just put yourself out there. Just try a little bit of this and that, and you'll like, if you find you don't like this one, there's always another club or another thing. And you'll like, for me, MSET was just that one thing I love. So I just held on to it. Rocketry was just another thing I love. So I held on to that. And it's like, you find these different little clubs and like cliques and you just fall in with it. And it just, you fall in love with it and it's great.
I also want to throw out there that it's never too late. Like, I joined robotics my sophomore year, and it honestly didn't affect my trajectory that much. And not only that, if it's like my junior year, I also joined like yearbook and mock trial. And then my senior year, I still didn't think it was too late. So I would really, really stress, if you want to do something with your senior year, if you want to join speech and debate, even if we're here halfway through, it's never too late to reach out and be like, hey, I want this experience in my last 6 months, so let's just do it, you know?
Yeah, and a word of advice from Derek on this question was actually, because for those of you who, I guess most of you wouldn't have known Derek, he graduated a couple of years ago, but he was actually involved super heavily with robotics, the volleyball team, a bunch of different music organizations. So he was someone who was kind of these like three major areas who's super involved. But one word of advice he gave was not to spread yourself too thin. I'm kind of like paraphrasing what he wrote, but it was that sort of your first, your freshman and your kind of even your sophomore year of high school are a lot for joining a bunch of different organizations, like Brandon mentioned, sort of trying things out, seeing what really sticks. But at the end of the day, it's better to be super active in one or two or maybe even three activities rather than be kind of minimally involved with 20 or 30, just because you're able to get so much more out of the experience by sort of putting things in. Kind of like Mitra said, you put more in, you're going to get more back from it. And so that was kind of his advice, was to just really find those few things that you can focus on and then get really, really involved with those, and you'll have a really much better time. Any final words of advice? That's a good point, Lena. 20 to 30 is a little bit too much. I don't think I could even name 20 to 30 organizations, but yeah. For the four of you, any final words of advice just for students, whether it's with regards to choosing courses, maybe interacting with teachers, doing various things?
You know, keep an open mind, be willing to try new experiences, and know that like you don't have to have everything figured out right now. You can like flip-flop on a lot of things. Even when you start college, you don't have to have things figured out. Like if you're worried about like what you're going to choose as your major and stuff, don't, because you can change it. It's very common. So just know that take your time, try new things, and find what you like. Don't rush things.
I think another thing that's like sort of important, especially at Saratoga High, is like don't overwork yourself. Like I know I took a heavy course load, I think last year, and it was like not something I would recommend because it's not fun, especially your last year when you're working on like college apps and then like everything that's going on. It sort of gets tough to balance everything. So like don't go overboard with classes and things like that.
I'm gonna push this really hard, but community college is not the end of the world, like contrary to popular belief in Saratoga High School, because transferring from community college to UC Berkeley, you have a 25% admission rate versus high school to UC Berkeley is 16%. And granted, that isn't for all majors. It doesn't look like that for computer science, but it's you're way more likely to be able to get into a school that you really enjoy and also take time to think about your major, to find really cool people. I met people who I met this one dude who had like built 2 companies and was like, screw it, I'm going back to school for computer science. Met another dude who was like top 3 Tesla technicians inside of Bull, California. And those are people that are like, you're in a different age group. And so it's like, those people have a lot of experience and it's really rich community if you decide to throw yourself into it. So honestly, if you ever need any advice about community college, how to navigate through it, just contact me, hit me up, I'm your girl.
Yeah, just Derek's final word of advice here as his official spokesperson is to really get to know your teachers and let your teachers get to know you. And sort of his point was, it's not just so that, you know, they'll give you a better grade or something, but it's really that if you have a really good relationship with your teachers, I know we have at least 1 or 2 teachers in the crowd right now, it makes class so much more enjoyable just because you're able to be a little bit more relaxed. You're able to ask them questions more freely. And so Derek's word of advice is to get to know your teachers. All right, so now we're just going to transition this into everyone's favorite topic, college applications. So starting off the bat, so obviously you were all going to pretty incredible colleges, but what were you looking for when you were sort of looking for different engineering schools? Were there any particular requirements you wanted to meet, whether it's school size or location or special focus or something?
I think one thing with Michigan specifically that I really liked is that you can be undeclared for up to 3 semesters, and then you can declare any major of your choosing as long as you have a 2.0. And if you don't have a 2.0, like you get dropped out of the university. So like basically you can choose any major you want without like having any barriers of applying into majors. So what's nice about that is it gives you the flexibility to really explore a lot of options. For people who are interested in making their graduation a little faster, that kind of program might not be as beneficial for you. But if you know that you want to do 4 years at college or like transfer in or something, that's a really great way to look at it. And there are a lot of schools that do this as well.
Okay. So one thing I think I was looking for, like when I was looking to college, I didn't actually know what I really wanted. So I was just looking, right? And some colleges, I love doing like projects. I love doing like just mini tasks. And I just look for different colleges that have like project-based learning, having club activities, like almost like an MSET club, but like almost on a larger scale. So I just looked for things that I love to do, and I found the ones I wanted. So if you really like, don't think you have to find a certain college because it's good. Find a college that you think you'll enjoy almost, right? That is, yeah.
I completely agree with Brandon, but ultimately it was 2 things for me. The first one is I'm a baby to not California weather, and I wanted to stay in California just because tuition, and it's just like it all made sense to me. And so what I literally did to choose colleges is I pulled up a website that had every single California college, and I was just like, okay, we're gonna figure out all of these because I didn't have anybody to guide me. I didn't know what colleges were already out there, and so I was scared that I was gonna miss a college that I would potentially really enjoy. And I went one by one and like learned about the colleges and slowly eliminated them. One thing was that if it was a private college, I wanted it to be small, and if it was, I didn't necessarily consider any state schools as well. So, yeah.
For me, I think one of the larger criteria I just based my search by, like I used Naviance a lot for this, but it was like one of them was I wanted to be in like a vaguely big city, right? I didn't want to be in like some difficult to get to place, especially for like transport to and back. And then another factor that like had Hopkins stand out to me though was the fact that I had previously gone there for a summer program, because obviously last semester we couldn't exactly travel anywhere, so it was sort of harder to get like a read on certain college campuses. So it was easier to just go for something that I was actually familiar with.
Yeah, going off that line of familiarity, if you have the opportunity to go visit the colleges, like I would say like after you get in to make the decision, that's probably the best way. I don't think it's necessary to visit colleges before you apply, like, or before you get admission. But definitely if you have the chance, visit before you commit.
And so I think one of the most terrifying parts of the college application is declaring that, like, or choosing that one prospective major, right? That most schools will ask sort of what are your top 2 or top 3 majors that you're interested in. And I think obviously you all declared engineering majors, but can you just kind of talk through the first point? I think we've sort of touched on it, but it's why did you choose to apply to the College of Engineering at all these schools? And then the second point is, how did you choose which specific major you wanted to apply for?
I kind of have a funny story about this. So for all my college apps, I think I applied. I think most of my colleges I applied mechanical engineering, but for some reason I still don't know why. Although a part of it is that I knew that Hopkins is a place where like changing majors is like a pretty common thing. So like even if you go into it with that one, it's not like it's a hard like you have to live by it. Unless you're BME, you can't transfer into BME, but you can transfer out. But anyways, so I, for some reason, just decided to apply to Hopkins as electrical engineering because I knew that I was interested in one of the two, and I still wasn't quite sure of like which one to pursue. So that one was just a randomly chosen one, and I like it.
Yeah, kind of going off of what Kathy said, when I applied to college, I literally applied everywhere as a biomedical engineering major. I took AP Bio though, realized that I personally do not like biology, and I think I would have gone crazy in that major. So again, this is like why you need to try out different subjects and see like what is it you actually like and don't like. But what's really nice at Michigan is you can't even declare a major in your first semester. You can declare as early as January of your second term, and you have up to December of your sophomore year to declare. So you have the time to like really explore your options. And I think like during quarantine, like as much as it was kind of awful, it was good in the sense that it gave me the time to really explore other fields a lot and really find like my other interests, you know?
I shadowed a ton of people, just like an overwhelming amount. Like if I knew somebody and I was close to them, and I knew that their parents did something that I was thinking about, I like asked to shadow them either through the person themselves or through the parent. And parents are always so flattered when you ask. But basically, when you want to shadow somebody, you only ask for maybe 3 to 4 hours, like either before lunch or after lunch. And you're just like, take me through what a normal day looks like. It doesn't need to be anything exciting. And to be perfectly honest, a lot of the ones that I went to weren't exciting at all. But I think like the benefit of that though was I was able to see what the field is actually like, and on top of that, I got to go to some cool places. I think in how I would change that to like COVID days is it's actually way easier to get permission to be in somebody's company building now, but because you're not actually in their company building, you're in their living room. So maybe it's just like a sit down talk and like ask to see what their working days are like or what their meetings are like. And I'm sure I'm like 100, let's just say 99.9% positive that they'll say yes to that.
So when I was deciding my major, I didn't really know what I wanted. A lot of them, I just wanted biomedical or mechanical, and I just looked for those. Like, I wasn't super picky, so like, I take what I get, and like, currently I'm majoring in mechanical, and it's like chill with that, and it's like you can always switch. So like, if I don't like this, I know I'm gonna switch. So like, I'm just gonna go with it, go with the flow. So yeah, I don't know.
So it sounds like the general consensus is don't stress out too much about what you put in your application because there's always time to sort of see what you're interested in afterwards. Is that kind of the general agreement there?
Yeah, it's super easy to switch your major regardless of if you're undeclared or like if you're declared. It's so easy, so don't stress about it.
Yeah, awesome. So I definitely want to move on, talk kind of more about your college experience. So just any last words of advice if you're, let's say, speaking to a junior or senior who's looking to apply to college?
make sure to do your research before interviews. Pick
Yeah.
out like specific things you want to talk about with those interviewers. Right?
Yeah, in terms of that research as well, make sure your essays about like why this school are very specific to that school, because that research, it's not just to answer the essay, it's for you as well. Because when you do this research, you should find programs that genuinely excite you. And if you don't, consider not applying to the school, you know, name isn't everything. Really, you need to find things that like really speak to you. Oh, also make sure you're honest on your application and really like show who you are. Like try to avoid negative stuff if you can, but don't create a fake persona. College admissions officers can see through that no matter how much you try. And also don't spend thousands of dollars on a counselor. It's not worth your money.
Or I think Derek's last word of advice here was to, he said, do your applications as early as possible. And so he said specifically for himself, he started right after his junior year was over, kind of did a lot of the work through summer. Just in case, for those of you who don't really know the deadlines right now, basically your common application, the UC application and all are open over summer. And then sort of your main school-specific supplementals are official like August 1st, I believe. And then your first regular college deadline is November 1st. And so he said that he was able to get a lot of it done in the first like couple months of the semester. And what that really allowed him to do was to not only feel a little bit more relaxed, because senior year is pretty stressful even without college applications, but then his exact words are, then you can laugh at all your friends while they struggle because they procrastinated. So sort of, you know, two major benefits, it seems like, to getting your college applications done early. So I think that was his big piece of advice there. So now moving on to sort of the third kind of mishmash with the fourth topic. And so that's just about your college experience as an engineering student. So,
I'm gonna take my dictionary to the, yeah, so, no, it's okay.
Okay, just gonna quickly mute everybody. So, starting off, obviously, I think we'll just get the elephant out of the room right now. So COVID-19 is having a pretty big impact on I think everybody's life right now, but especially you guys as college students. And I know that 3 out of the 4 people here are freshmen, so maybe you didn't get as much of you don't have much to compare it to, but sort of how has COVID-19 impacted your college experience so far? Maybe pros, cons, sort of how has that been for all of you?
Honestly, for me, it's not that bad. I have online classes, but I'm also having in-person classes. So it's like you get to go to class 1 day a week for one class. And it's like, sure, it's not normal, but like it's not that bad. Like one thing that I think has definitely been for the worse is you can't leave your dorm. Like you can't really interact with people. Like for the first 4 weeks of campus, I was I was just inside my dorm for literally the entire day, except to get lunch and dinner. Like the semester progressed and like it got chill, and it's like it feels nice. It's you get to go to class, you get to stay indoors. It's like a good mix for me, at least. So for me, COVID-19 has not been the worst, but I have also gotten to go to campus, so it's quite different than some others, I think.
I think people bond when suffering, and I think as Saratoga High students, you guys already know this, but like majority of the friends that I've made are already in the classes that I have, and we mainly communicate to like hang out after midterm, or I have a study group for one class where from 9 p.m. to 12 p.m. we're constantly doing homework. We cheer each other on as we cry. And so, and just to give you perspective, these are old people that I like met on Discord, but like Zoom has created a new era where I'm like, I haven't seen any of you guys' legs before, but you know, I feel like I know you. So I'd say don't underestimate the communities that even like your professors create, because they're very cognizant that these are intro classes and they try to pair people up. And then also Discord is a blessing, and you'll see a ton of group chats be like circulated the first few days of class on Discord. Yeah.
Yeah, so our school is, I think like Lena's, fully online. So a large part of it is that no matter what, we lack some sort of social aspect because we're not able to like be there geographically with other people. So something that's also helped is clubs. Like I think we mentioned earlier that join a bunch of clubs, like your first year especially, join a lot of clubs and then like go through them, pick out which ones you actually enjoy going to and which ones you don't. There's sort of there's a sort of a pro and con with this online clubs though, in that there's it's a lot easier to get to the meetings because obviously you only have to like log into Zoom or whatever. But a con of this is that then you're just on Zoom 24/7 and it sort of gets annoying sometimes. But I found that there are especially like quite a few community-based clubs in college. So for example, I'm a part of our school's Taiwanese American Student Association. And then it's sort of fun to find like something that we all have in common or like want to appreciate and then make friends based off of that.
Yeah, I think Kathy is so right. Joining clubs has been a really important thing, and not just like project-based clubs and stuff, but also things that are interesting to you or people like you. I think that's a great way to make friends. The other thing is like make sure you don't like coop yourself up in your room all day, like in normal times theoretically. If you can like get out and like try to meet people, because people come from all over the world to most of these schools, and it's really a missed opportunity if you don't take the time to meet them and really learn their stories and stuff.
Yeah, so speaking of being part of all these clubs and whatnot, how have you found is the best way to balance your academic life with sort of your social and extracurricular time?
Don't procrastinate. Yeah, don't procrastinate. I do my homework on time now. Like when it's assigned, I do it. One thing I learned to do is I wake up early to do all my homework and like study and stuff. So it leaves a lot of time in the afternoon and like night so I can chill, do clubs, do stuff. Like yeah, don't procrastinate. That's pretty much it.
If you guys fall behind in college, you're going to be behind for the rest of the semester. So just do all your work, don't fall behind, and don't procrastinate. And obviously that's a lot easier said than done, but really make sure that you're managing your time and keeping like a calendar. Also, there's a lot of assignments, so make sure you like write everything down. Like I know in high school you can kind of get away with not using your planner, but like use your planner and stuff.
I agree with everything that Mitra said. You guys, I needed to start to use a planner, and honest to God, I did it too late. So like one of your things for next fall should be buy a planner and start using it. And I think second to that, I agree with Brandon. I do all of my homework early because I have one class that the homework takes 10 plus hours for, but you never know until you start/never finish it. So I get done my easier homework over the weekend and then do that from 9 to 12 p.m. every day of the week until it's due. And it's great. And the fact that I have a support system makes it way more manageable, and it makes it feel like I'm actually socializing while I'm doing homework. So study groups are beautiful, and I would highly recommend them no matter where or what class it is for.
Yeah, Derek actually had a similar recommendation where he said he doesn't use a physical planner, but he uses his Google Calendar a lot. And so what he was saying was really use and even overuse Google Calendar. Block out every single possible thing you're going to do in a day, just so that you don't maybe make plans on days where you really should be working on homework a lot. Sort of 2 points going into that. And I'm kind of reading off what he sent me, but one thing he said was to even budget your time if you're getting like a meal with friends, or if you're doing homework for a certain block of time, put it all into a calendar so that you kind of get a scope for how your day is being spent and where you have time to do other things. And the second part he actually mentioned, which is something I had never even thought about, but he said, even account for the fact that walking between classes, this is assuming you're in person, is going to take way longer than you think it's going to, and it's going to take up way more time than you think that you have. And so even as part of that, just sort of block out that extra time that, hey, if I have to walk between building A and building B, that's not 0 minutes of my time. I can just schedule things back to back. That's going to take, 7 minutes to get across or something. So that was his advice there. I know I want to save time for audience questions, so I'm just going to try to quickly get through a couple more things. How have you found that your college or you've worked to sort of find opportunities for yourself to get exposure to engineering, the industry, or sort of get connections for when you want to pursue internships or jobs after college?
I know for us, we have this thing called the Life Design Lab, and it's pretty much like its main purpose is specifically for this. So I think especially in the first few weeks, they were hosting a lot of like webinars about things like resume building, or we use Handshake a lot, I think, LinkedIn profiles, things like that, where they're telling you the basics. I think in maybe mid-September, early October, there was also this thing called Future Fest. And I think this one was more so networking for like careers. And so we have like plenty of opportunities in which they sort of help you review like your own materials and push you towards finding like new opportunities.
Yeah, building off of that, make sure you always go to the career fairs, and that way you can talk to recruiters at companies directly. When you go to large schools like large state schools and stuff, companies will come to the schools. Like, you don't have to worry about like trying to find this company by yourself. Like, they'll come to you, and really take advantage of that network that your school gives. The other thing is, if you can join student organizations where they give you a network and help you with things like practice interviews and just like getting you connected with more opportunities, that's a great way. And there are a lot of student organizations that are kind of dedicated to just networking and getting connections.
One thing is, once you enter college, they'll tell you that internships are only for juniors, but that's becoming less and less true. So never take no for an answer. Even if when they say it's for juniors, like take the opportunity to get the recruiter's email and like shoot them an email afterwards, because they might have some sort of other program for you. And also, you have a network. Like, you're at Saratoga High, everybody's parent is CEO of some other company, So tap into that. It doesn't, like, your first year doesn't need to be like an internship at Google, but it does, you can get some sort of experience and end up really enjoying it. So
Yeah, I agree. For me, it's you have to actively look for it. Like, they'll give you the career fair, but it's up to you to like sign up for the one you want, like the different like options they give. Also read your email, because my college, they actively give us like emails about speakers, different internships available, and like a lot of them, it goes unnoticed because it's an ad sometimes for like buy our sweatshirts. But make sure you read your emails. Like, they'll give you, but you have to find it almost. So
the other thing is, make sure you take advantage of your university's alumni network. A lot of people find jobs by contacting alumni from their university who work at companies that they want to work at, and make sure to utilize that because they're a very valuable resource.
That being said, I know it's nerdy, but start your LinkedIn, because the second that you hit, I would say about 300 connections is when you start appearing in other people's searches. And if you're at like 500 plus, you'll start getting really, really crappy opportunities, but opportunities nonetheless. And so I think one thing that I don't regret doing is starting my LinkedIn really early and just like befriending everybody at the high school.
There's two quick last questions. The first one is obviously tying all the way back. You guys are all super involved with MSET and like the first robotics organization when you were in high school. Do you think that there was anything in particular from either being part of Saratoga High's MSET club or just being in the first robotics organization as a whole that has either benefited you or taught you something that has been, useful now as college students?
Honestly, at the end of the day, the most valuable skill I think I gained at MSET was being able to work with a large group of people and work on a large scale project, and get it done. I think this skill is like, it's really underlooked, but this is what you're going to need when you're no longer a student. You're going to have to work with people. And I think first really gives that experience in a way that like no other high school activity does.
I'm going to echo what Mitra said. 100%, the biggest thing that I got out of robotics was leadership experience. I got to figure out what was my kind of leadership, and I learned about facilitating and being in like a cooperative setting and the kind of communication and organization that needs to happen with a group of people. So, but I didn't, and I would say, like, I'm not even joking when I say this, that was the most useful thing I got from robotics. Like, hands down, it was that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're referred to as soft skills that we learned in robotics really helped us. And another thing that I guess is sort of tangentially related is the fact that I participated in like lots of outreach, particularly in my senior year. That sort of helped me with because currently I'm in our school's chapter of Engineer Without Borders, and the program I'm in is one of those mentoring, I think, elementary to middle school age students in STEM. So very similar to like Argo FLL last year. And while currently with the pandemic, we can't really do anything because of their school's restrictions and things like that, it sort of prepared me for this, and it's given me plenty of ideas and how to interact with these children.
I think MSET has actually showed me how to learn. Like when I came in, like I knew nothing, but like over 4 years, I learned a lot. And like when I came to Clarkson, I knew nothing. And like if you listen, like if you go to a club, just listen. Like you may not get to do anything yet, but if you listen and learn, you'll start to understand what they're doing, and you can start to like put yourself out there. Can I do this? Can I do that? And it really, like, I really got that from MSET. You put yourself out there. You want to do something, just tell them, can I try this? Can I try this? Is there anything for me to do? Don't just like let them tell you or just stand in the background. It's really shown me how to like put myself out there almost.
Yeah, and then just before we start taking questions, do you have any last pieces of advice for high schoolers regarding anything really, but specifically regarding sort of coming into college and what to expect?
Expect the unexpected, because I could I could sit down and explain to you exactly how specifically my university works, but it's different than everybody else's. And even within my own university, there's a lot of generalization that's going to happen because you don't know how you're going to react when you're in a completely different setting than you are right now. And like Saratoga is very comfortable. You probably lived here for a couple of years, and so with that, it's just different. I don't know how else to say it.
I think that's like so spot on, is really just be open-minded, be open to new opportunities, accept the fact that you're going to be meeting a lot of very different people. And that's part of what makes the experience so good. You know, everyone's differences is amazing, and you'll learn so much from the people around you.
I'd also say don't be afraid to try new things, especially since I think college courses, a lot of them are more open-ended and you have a lot more freedoms in choosing what classes you want to take. So don't just shoot for your major requirements. Like for example, last semester, I was interested in this writing course. I took it. It's expository writing about technology and the future of work. I was taking a class on the science of color. Next semester, I'm taking an intro to moral philosophy. So these are all over, not related to my major, but I found them interesting, so I'm ready to take them.
I agree with Kathy. Don't just sit there. Find things you enjoy. Like you'll have your classes, but also find like you can find electives, you can find clubs. Just find something you'll enjoy, almost like as a side thing. Don't just sit there and take your classes, do your notes, study. Be active, even during this like quarantine.
One other thing is I'm especially at a school with a lot of people, so this is especially true if you're in an overcrowded university. But if you are just stagnant and you're not reaching out, nobody's going to spot you and help you out. You're going to need to help yourself. And actually, this was true for community college as well. You're the one who needs to find the resources. You're the one who needs to like figure out what you need and seek everything you need. Like if you need advice, you're going to need to be the one to seek it out because you're in a large university and there's a lot of classes and you're going to need advice. So you just need to seek that out. If you need help, if you need like mentorship, if you need some sort of connection for like or referral for a company, those are all things that you're going to need to seek. And so being able to pull out your resources is definitely a tool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know this ran a little bit later than this section is supposed to, but at this point, I think we'll open it up for those of you who are watching. If you want to unmute yourself or maybe drop a question in the chat, I think we'll do some audience questions. So.
Okay, I have a question. Does being in a leadership position in MSET mean like sacrificing time in like the hands-on engineering part of robotics?
I would say no. When you're a leader in MSET, you're still very actively involved in the engineering process. It just means that you would dedicate even more time to the club than you would have if you weren't a leader, like to deal with a lot of like the operational aspects, you know? And don't be afraid of that. I think those skills are very valuable. Just know that if you are interested in a position of leadership, it does require more time from you.
Or does that mean sleeping really late?
I actually averaged like 7 to 8 hours of sleep in high school, even in junior year. Like it's fine. You can get your sleep, you know. Just don't procrastinate when you get home. That's the main thing.
Also, I'm not the master of college apps, but I think college apps more want to see what you gained from an experience rather than like the position you were in that experience. And so if you are in robotics and you're able to like talk about the experience, talk about what you learned, then that's way more valuable than just having it as another thing on your list of activities. And I think the same way goes for leadership as well. Like there's an understanding at college, like for the college admission officers, that not everything on your application you've given like 100% to, but robotics is one of those things. And whether you're a leader or not, you can give like you can reach and attain that level of like comprehensive experience.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, titles really mean nothing. If you take on initiative to pursue something you enjoy and, give your all to it, it's an experience you can talk about regardless of if you have a title or not. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah, so I have a question. If you could name 2 indispensable characteristics or soft skills to not just be a leader in MSET, I mean, other than leadership, obviously, but not just be a leader in MSET, but to also be active in MSET, what would those be?
Just in terms of being a leader in MSET, one thing that is huge for me is being able to delegate, because once you are you're taking a leadership role inside of a team, you have already attained all of the skills that you need to basically drive like the entire hardware team or like the software team or whatever. But it really takes another kind of skill in order to be able to be like, well, I know I can do this, but let me hand it over because I trust and know my teammates can do this as well, or I'm willing to give them the guidance so that they can do it up to my expectations. And that like you don't necessarily need to be a one-man machine. But that only answers half of your question. So I'll leave it to somebody else to answer the other half.
Yeah, in terms of being a leader, for sure, being able to delegate and being able to teach. But in terms of just being a member, let's say you're a freshman right now and you're interested in learning and potentially being a leader like when you're older, make sure you advocate for yourself and make sure you take the time to really try new things. No one's gonna come to you if you don't stick up for yourself. No one's gonna entrust like work for you if you don't show up. So make sure you show up, make sure you like get involved in exactly like what you want to do, ask questions, and just don't expect things to be spoon fed to you.
Okay, so kind of a follow-up to that. So you say like, I guess like be active and make yourself heard. Is that like just, not just be the loudest in the room, but like, does that also include like being, I guess, well composed when you do show up? Or is it about quantity more than quality is, I guess, what I'm asking.
For sure, composure is so important. I think sometimes in MSET we occasionally forget because we've spent a lot of time in the room with each other. But yes, when you can be composed and advocate for yourself, that is the most effective thing for everyone because you're not wasting time with others like trying to argue or get into petty fights. So the more composed you are and the more like gracious professionalism you practice, the better.
I wouldn't describe it as composed as I would eager. Like, I think what Brandon said earlier about the clubs that he's joined, even at university, really put really drove home the point that you listen first and you see what you gather your bearings, figure out what's going on, and then immediately are like, can I do this? Can I do that? And you have the ambition to try and do those tasks, even if it may be daunting or whatever. You're taking that initiative, and I think that would be the recipe of success of like a general team member.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how you learn. So, like, obviously, if it's the night before a competition and there's a mistake, allow people like who are more experienced to help you, and like, don't be afraid to get help, but also don't be afraid of failing.
I guess another thing is you have to be willing to do like a lot of things. Like I know Lena had had problems with us, a few of us not quite enjoying writing in the notebook, for example, but it was still important to like help out with like all aspects instead of just focusing on like one specific topic every single time.
That leads me to my final point. Don't be the idiot that I need to chase, or whoever's doing the notebook, needs to chase down in order to write in the notebook. People on the team are gonna love you so much more if you just contribute to the notebook without complaining. Like, my God, it's just like, it's like a couple of words in English and people act like I'm gonna cut off their right leg. Like, it's not that bad, suck it up. That's it.
I know that was a very specific example, but to generalize a little bit, I think what, oh my God, I think that the general lesson from these sort of anecdotes was that especially when you're working in an environment, and I know like I can't speak to this too much because I'm not a college student, but engineering is a lot about being in a team environment a lot of the time, because the projects you're going to work on, you know, and obviously I'm in MSET, so sort of being on a robotics team, one person can't do that work, right? You do need multiple people to contribute. And when you're working in a team environment, it's really about prioritizing the team over like your own individual wants and needs. So obviously, like if I say I want to be on the hardware team, I want to learn how to CAD and build robots, like that should be my focus. But if what the team really, really needs for, you know, just the one day is for somebody to manage the documentation of something or to do some more like logistical work or something, I shouldn't just say, well, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to do that. That's not my job around here, right? It's all about, if this is what the team needs me to do and I'm not doing anything else right now, then that's what I'm going to do. So I think it's about being a good team player. That's really big. And I know a lot of people don't associate that with engineering, but I think, as you might have heard, that is pretty important.
Yeah, your engineering coursework might be individual, but engineering in the real world is never individual. It is always a team effort, and it is more than just one person. So really take that home, keep that in mind.
I heard a lot of stories like 3 a.m. build sessions or whatever. If I can't like make it that late, right? Is that gonna be like really bad for me?
No, it's perfectly fine if you're not able to go that late. And like in reality, going that late is not a good thing. Like you shouldn't have to. And I know we've all been guilty of this in the past, but like logically speaking, you should a big part is like scheduling and doing things on time. And as long as you're good with that, these 3 a.m. meetings are not necessary.
I'm pretty sure the school also has a ban now on like, I think since like last school year, they had a ban on like no like robotics after midnight kind of thing. So I don't think you should be worried about 3 in the morning.
Yeah, honestly, I think the latest that I ever stayed in robotics was the time, like the day before scrimmage, my very first year, where we definitely weren't productive up until that point. And so all of the modules had to be like, we're at 50% at the beginning of the day, and they had to get to 100% and integrated into the robot by the end of the day. And let's just say it didn't happen. It didn't go too great. Like, one thing that I think I really noticed through robotics is that Mr. Nguyen can attest to this, is that if you have, like the earlier you finish your robot and you start your driving like practice, is the better that you're gonna do, because at that point you're just refining and refining and refining. And that means that you're not up at 3 a.m. like the night before. No, you know, like the day of competition, you know that robot works because it's been working reliably for the past month.
And I think that speaking kind of from a right now perspective, one thing that COVID-19 has at least taught me, and I know it's taught a lot of people, is that when you're forced into a situation, because like right now, for those of you who are not MSET, even the like my team specifically, we're actually competing, I believe, like next weekend. And so virtually, but even with that, like we're only able to spend around 6 to 7 hours in person actually building things. And so it's sort of like with these limited hours, obviously, and these are very structured times, it's not 3 in the morning. Mitra's right. We were banned from staying up that late, but you really learn that if you're given a chunk of time, let's say you have 2 hours in one day that you need to get work done, and this can be applied to anything, not just robotics. This can be applied to homework or to like a music rehearsal or to robotics or to anything. If you have a chunk of time, you need to come up with an agenda for that chunk of time. You need to delegate work beforehand. You really need to plan out what every single person who's available is going to be doing during that entire time. And only then is your group or yourself being properly efficient and like maximizing your own potential. Because if you have someone who's standing idly for 2 hours, but then work isn't getting done, that person could be getting the work done, right? You really need to make sure that everyone is able to work at their max capacity and their max potential for however long you have. And you will 100% not have to stay up late at all for robotics or for anything if you're just really able to maximize that time. So I think we've covered that question quite a bit. We'll take another question. Are there any last questions? You can ask anything in the chat. You can unmute yourself like our question askers have been doing. You can say hi to these alumni if you know them. Floor is completely open.
Hello, alumni. I'm just wondering of what piece of advice before you went to college was totally correct and what piece of advice was totally terrible? Okay, I didn't mean to stump you.
A terrible one I can think of is like how some people are telling me, yeah, because Saratoga High is like so academically like, competitive and stuff that, oh, when you go to college, it won't be that bad or whatever. That's not true at all, especially since it's a different environment and like the system is, at least for me, it's completely different where classes are much shorter and it's a lot more like individual. You have to still do lots of stuff. And so it's like quite a big difference and I don't think they're like really comparable at all.
This might be a hot take, but one bad piece of advice I personally think is bad is you need to apply to 20 to 30 colleges and you need like a college counselor. No, none of that is true. Outside of Saratoga, 20 is not a normal number. You don't need to be reaching that high. It honestly adds so much stress to your senior year with every college that you're putting on, especially if it's a private, then you're adding like 3 to 4 essays sometimes to your list. And so I would say really take that with a number with a grain of salt.
Yeah, don't apply to 20 colleges. Honestly, even like 15 is pushing it. You know, a lot of people I met while at college only applied to 3 or 4 schools. I'm not saying only apply to 3 or 4 because it's different in the Midwest than in California, but you really don't need to apply to 20 or 30. And also know that like ranking is like, it's literally just some arbitrary number and it really means nothing. You need to find stuff that excites you about a school and forget the rankings. You know, the rankings are not important and you shouldn't make that your deciding factor.
Some advice I was given is that they told me college is going to be like, it's very different than SHS. So don't go in thinking school is going to be the same. You're like, the classes are a lot more like different, more spread out. Everything's like shorter time periods, but more dense. So it's like, just don't expect to have the same schooling you've had for the past 18 years. So yeah, or like whatever, how many, 12 years.
Oh, so this is a great question in the chat about what you can do during the summer to get more exposed to robotics. So usually MSET does a lot of outreach during the summertime. And I know a lot of people are like, I joined robotics to build a robot. I didn't join for outreach, but get involved in outreach. It's so much fun, and you really get the chance to connect with your teammates beyond the robot, and you get to do something good for people outside of the robotics room. And it's a great experience. So I'd really take advantage of any outreach opportunity that's there during the summertime.
I would say though, if you've gone through like a heavy course load in junior and senior year, in terms of the APs, I think you're ready for the rigor that like studying for an exam in college requires, or something around that sort. But it's definitely different. It's like a different flavor. Your homework doesn't inflate your grades anymore, and so on and so forth. But I think you can take comfort in the fact that just in sheer just like class rigor, if you study as hard as you do for like an AP bio exam, then you're gonna be fairly okay.
I'll definitely add on that if you're not an MSET, there are still like opportunities you can pursue. So besides just taking classes outside, you can definitely look into different summer programs and whatnot. I know that there's a ton available if you literally just Google. You can go talk to or like the school counselor, you can talk to your friends, talk to faculty. But there are a lot of opportunities to pursue studying engineering or STEM or robotics at different universities or different programs in different places. So definitely if you're not part of MSET, you can also look into that for learning more about robotics. All right, I think we'll take maybe one more question. I know we're approaching around 6:15, so I don't want to hold anyone back too late. Anyone wants to be the brave soul to ask? All right, well, our last question answer is gathering their courage. I think I'll just quickly read the notes that have been dropped in the chat here, just for those of you who are either not reading the chat or whoever ends up watching this recording. So Mitra said that one big difference between college and high school is you actually have to read the book. And Lena kind of added on saying that it's especially because they, being professors, won't be holding your hand. So that kind of makes it different. Actually, Lena, do you want to explain that out loud?
Yeah, just the professor isn't necessarily holding your hand. I think one thing that came to a shock to me was in terms of essays. Like there's no, for me anyways, personally, the classes that I was taking, there was no more rough drafts due. Teachers weren't checking in with you. And it's different because like in like English inside of high school, there was multiple checkpoints where they were like, okay, do your first paragraph, in leading up to having like a 12-page paper due. But in college, it's not necessarily like that. And also in terms of studying, they don't hold your hand while studying. That's definitely something you're completely doing out of the classroom. They're not really benefiting. They're not like giving you any resources specifically in class. But one thing that I personally think, and maybe this isn't a universal experience, is that you're better off than the average student coming from a high school not in the Silicon Valley.
Yeah, for sure. Saratoga High School does prepare you really well compared to most high schools in this country. But don't get overconfident with that. You still are going to have to work hard. But if you put in the work, because of the prep Saratoga High School has given, you will succeed. But you just have to put that work in. Like, don't get lazy.
Hi, Mr. Welander.
Hi.
Hey guys.
Mr. Welander, do you have our final question for today?
No, I don't have any questions. But thanks for doing this.
honestly, seeing some familiar names was really great inside of the participants list. I was like, wow. Yeah.
Oh, also one difference between high school and college is socially, like, you need to be way more, like, I guess, like, proactive, like, reach out to people, like, no one's gonna be sitting at like your lunch table and stuff, so you actually have to like make an effort to like meet people, and like for any of your friends you actually have to make the time to see them. Like it's not just a convenience, and just keep that in mind, because social interaction is like, it's not the reason you go to college, but it is a very important aspect.
Do I see a final brave question asker on our screen?
No, just a comment.
Good.
Oh, great job, alumni. Good to see you guys all on the screen. Long time no see. Glad you guys are doing well and happy in college. Okay, sorry, whoever I interrupted, go ahead, ask your question.
What value do you use for G for physics? So for our physics lab, I think we used like something about like the, what's it called? They specifically found like what it was found to be at like the building where they perform the experiments. And I think it was like 9.8000, a bunch of zeros and a one. So yeah.
Online physics lab is an experience. Like we use Python, and just they give us random data and we just put in random numbers and use some tracker software that breaks on the computer. 10 out of 10 would not recommend.
All right, this seems like a good question to wrap it up on then. Yeah, so thank you to the 4 alumni we have here today. Obviously, it was, great getting to see you guys again, but I hope everybody who is watching was able to learn a thing or two about not just these alumni, but also sort of some lessons or some philosophies that you can apply to your own life to maybe be more successful in high school and beyond. Obviously, if you have any questions about, because I know we talked a lot about MSET and robotics here, if you have any questions about that, you can be sure to contact me on Messenger or send me an email or something. Alumni, do you want to maybe drop some like contact info in the chat if you're comfortable, just so that people can contact you if they have any questions? Looks like Lena was proactive to that idea. But yeah, if you want to contact any of these alumni, ask them about their school, ask them about their major, their program, or about any of their experiences, you can totally copy down their email in the chat here. And yeah, so thank you all so much for coming. Hopefully this was useful for all of you, and have a great rest of your Saturday.